Sagittarius, I've realized, because they don't take life too seriously and the timing of things too seriously, they can also procrastinate. Sagittarius believes that, hey, like, if it's meant to be, it'll be. Like, I don't have to do it right this second. Also, they tend to lead with what feels good. Most things that we're procrastinating on are things that are serious, right? A little bit too serious because they're not fun. If they were fun things, you would be doing it. You're not procrastinating, right? So for Sagittarius, it's not fun. It's probably not fun, so they're procrastinating and having fun until the very last second where they have to stop having fun to do the thing that they were procrastinating on, you know? What's good, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a Zodiac list that I will be reacting to. We haven't done one of these in a long time, and I found the perfect one. And I mean perfect in the sense that, oh, we are reacting. Because typically, with these lists, I tend to agree with most of them. You know what I mean? Like, most of the signs, usually it hits. There's some where it doesn't. But when I tell you, I changed everything about this list. I didn't like it at all. Really, I think only like one or two signs are the ones where I'm like, yeah. Everything else is shifting into another category, and I'm interested to see how you guys react to my version versus the version that they have here. So you can tell from the title of the video, the list is what your sign needs to give up. And this is from Gabrielle Astrology. That's the source that it says on the picture. I found it on Pinterest. We're gonna react to it. We're gonna tell you what you need to give up, kind of like your toxic trait in a way, something that is probably holding you back a lot. So we're gonna get a little deep, we're gonna get a little intense, but let's get into it. Okay, so the first category that we have is self-rejection. And honestly, I had to actually look up, like, in theory, yes, when I read self-rejection, I can tell what it means, but I feel like I needed to really understand what they're trying to say by saying that you need to give that up. Yes, nobody should be rejecting themselves, but I was like, maybe I'm not getting it because I don't see Aries and Taurus being in this category. So yeah, when I looked it up, basically it says self-rejection is a form of negative self-talk where individuals undermine their own worth and potential, often driven by a fear of external rejection or criticism. Now listen, I feel like the term self-rejection and Aries should not be in the same sentence. What do you mean? Aries is ruled by the first house, the self. Aries knows how to back themselves up more than a lot of other signs, if not all the other signs. And Taurus, listen, Taurus is ruled by the second house of value, right? Anything that has to do with our self-esteem, anything that has to do with how grounded we feel, right? Things that make us feel safe, right? And I feel like, again, of course, anyone can be self-rejecting, but I just don't see these two archetypes being the type of people that are self-rejecting often. Just because Aries has no problem going after what they want, you know, they're the pusher, and Taurus stands firmly in their values and who they are and doesn't really feel the need to change that in order to make anyone happy externally. In fact, they will go out of their way to do exactly what they've been doing and let you know to never ever tell them what to do ever again. So that to me doesn't give the energy of someone that is self-rejecting. But that's just my opinion. Now, if we're gonna get into what categories I would actually put them in, for Aries, I would actually say that they go into the category of fear of failure. I feel like, if anything, you know, Aries, having a fear of failure doesn't mean that you don't do shit, right? I think Aries placements, I know Aries placements, if they're operating at their highest vibration, if they're comfortable with their Martian energy, they're constantly going after whatever it is that they want, whether it's a person, a job, a lifestyle, you know what I mean? Whatever it may be, if they have an idea, they're following through with it. They're very action oriented like that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't fear failure just because of how bad they want to succeed, right? Just because of how bad they want things, Aries, right? When you're Mars ruled, you just have this like passion, this intensity for the things that you want. And on the other side of that is the fear of not getting it, right? So that's why I would put Aries here. And then when it comes to Taurus, I would say Taurus goes under procrastinator. I think that is actually what category they would go into, which is procrastination. Because in my opinion, this Venus ruled sign, well, both Venus ruled signs are very much procrastinators, but there is another category for Libra that hits even more than procrastinator, but we'll get into that in a bit. But when it comes to Taurus, Tauruses are obvious procrastinators, you guys. That doesn't mean that they don't love their life and they don't love the pace that they're moving at. They absolutely love it. But I will say all the Taurians I know, they procrastinate. And they procrastinate until the very last second, or they just don't do it. They miss deadlines, not all of them. And it doesn't always have to be like job deadlines where they're getting in trouble or school or whatever. But in terms of just waiting till the last second to do it, Tauruses, I feel like, have that problem. Just because the whole concept of time doesn't mean shit to a Taurus. Like, they are truly the turtle in the race. They are moving at their own pace. And sometimes I feel like because of that, they don't always get the results that they want. And I think internally it bothers them because they know they move slower than the average person, but then they can't get themselves to care enough to change it either. So it is what it is. Okay, so next we have the category of negative self-talk. And here we have Virgo and Sagittarius. I do not see Sagittarius being in this category at all, and I'll let you know exactly why. In my opinion, actually, Sagittarius has the opposite problem, which is very, very positive self-talk. And that's not even a problem. Well, it can be, but that depends on what your definition of delulu is, because to me, the reason why Jupiter is doing its thing in Sagittarius is because it is delusionally optimistic about everything. And I think that is the perfect formula, obviously, for manifestation, is you truly believing that it's possible and that you deserve it. And Sagittarius placements believe that. So I don't think they would be in the category of negative self-talk being what their sign needs to give up, because it's not an issue that they have. But what they do have an issue with, like their Taurus sign sisters, is procrastinating. Sagittarius is also like procrastinating. And it's funny because it's like the Venus ruled sign and then the Jupiter ruled sign. Like, these are happy planets, right? But again, Sagittarius, I've realized, because they don't take life too seriously and the timing of things too seriously, they can also procrastinate. Sagittarius believes that, hey, like, if it's meant to be, it'll be. Like, I don't have to do it right this second. Also, they tend to lead with what feels good. Most things that we're procrastinating on are things that are serious, right? A little bit too serious, because they're not fun. If they were fun things, you would be doing it. You're not procrastinating, right? So for Sagittarius, it's not fun. It's probably not fun. So they're procrastinating and having fun until the very last second, where they have to stop having fun to do the thing that they were procrastinating on, you know? And then Virgo being the next one. The thing is, I could see Virgo being in this category, except there's another category that they would fit into more, which is expecting perfection. That is the category that I would move Virgo to. Don't get me wrong, Virgo is a negative talker, is a negative self-talker all the time. They're criticizing themselves, I always say, as much as they're criticizing you, they are criticizing themselves. Virgo expects perfection internally, externally, everywhere. You know what I mean? But when it comes to what they need to give up, I would say is expecting perfection, because it doesn't exist. It really does not exist. Even though you have this idea, Virgo, of what perfection is, and if it's just like this, it'll be perfect, it's always going to put you at a state of unease, and you're always going to be taking on this extra stress when it deviates from this version that you've deemed as perfect, right? And it will naturally happen. You know, things are rarely exactly the way we imagine them. You know, the universe has a way of spinning it or adding some extra seasoning or taking away some seasoning from what you thought. Like, it doesn't always come out the way that we want it to. Every day you could have a plan, but something can happen where it completely shifts every part of that day because one thing changed, right? And I think Virgos, this is why their nervous systems can be a mess, because they're so sensitive to any sort of change or any sort of deviation from whatever perfection is to them. It doesn't always have to be about a person, but that is the hardest one for you guys to deal with, because it sucks when you think someone's perfect. That was your first mistake. No one's perfect. But then when you think they're perfect and then they do something and it throws you off, Virgo, and now you're in your head about whether this is your person or not. And they could very well be your person, but because you have this idea that perfect people exist out there, you might let go of something good. I'm not saying lower your standards either, but I am saying that you should keep an open mind and to understand that perfection doesn't exist. And maybe by realizing that, you will give other people more grace and you'll invite new energy into your life. And then that will in return allow you to give yourself more grace, which would make your nervous system feel more at ease and more flexible. Okay, the next category that we have is criticizing others. And here we have Capricorn. Let's do a clap, everybody, because this is one of the two, I think, one of the 2 or 3 that I've decided is at a good place. This is the category that Capricorn should be in, which is criticizing others. But I could also see their secondary one being negative self-talk because of Saturn and how much Capricorn tends to take life so seriously, right? The glass half empty, analogy was created for Capricorns, like they just can't help but see what could go wrong, which is why they're such planners, right? Like Capricorn thinks like if I plan everything and if I have everything in place, then nothing can happen that could take away all of my hard work because I have control over this, right? But yeah, when it comes to criticizing others, I think Capricorns are very, very judgy, and honestly Virgos could go into criticizing others as well. They really can, but perfection is more suited for Virgos. But yeah, when it comes to criticizing others, I think Capricorns, the goat is the goat, so don't get me wrong. But I do feel like sometimes Capricorns will feel better when they are criticizing others. And I think sometimes Capricorn, you don't even understand or realize that you're doing it. You're just doing it internally. You're judging other people for not being good enough or for not being up to par. And you are just very, very hard on them. Again, that's how hard you are on yourself. And I think for Capricorns especially, because they've probably had to deal with some sort of hardship growing up or many hardships, I feel like no matter what, you tell yourself there's no excuse. Like, I went through all this shit and I was still able to do what I need to do to, live a better life or get my shit together, right? So I think you guys just have we have such a low tolerance for people that make excuses and for people that just don't walk the walk and are just always talking the talk. But I do think instead of sticking around and being around people that you want to criticize because their life isn't up to par and isn't up to your standards, why don't you just leave? I think that's a problem that Capricorn placements have, the ones that are maybe less evolved, is they have high standards and they don't leave when they need to. They almost, again, want to fix you as earth signs like to do. They like to fix you like a project. But I think Capricorn, why not just be around people that you don't have to criticize because they're already at the standard that you want them to be? You know what I mean? That would make your life so much easier. So yeah, Capricorn, I think you just need to be aware of projects that you take on, because sometimes I feel like as Capricorns, it makes you feel fulfilled when you can fix someone and build them up. But also remember, while you're doing that, probably you're criticizing them, you're judging them silently, if not loudly. And it's making you feel better because you can't help but look around and be like, wow, like everyone here sucks. Like if they only lived like me, they would be so much happier. And now you're like helping them, live a life like yours. But also, are they paying you? That's the question I have for the fixers of the Zodiac. When you're out here literally fixing people, that's work, right? That's time, work. Are they paying you? You know what I mean? I don't care if it's your partner or if it's your friend. And I'm not talking about you being there for your friends and your person and you guys evolving and growing together and being honest with each other about your shortcomings. No, I'm talking about people that are straight up, not on your level at all. You're up here and they're completely down here. And listen, everyone can be shifting, right? Like someone that's down here can come up here, but I'm talking about a situation where you're up here, Capricorn, and they're down here. And instead of you telling yourself, we are just not on the same level, you are staying up here just so you could punish this person and make them feel like shit. And who's to say, maybe they do need to feel like shit to get their shit together, but is that your job? Should you be giving them that much energy? Stop picking up these people that are projects. Just because you're so good at building people up, just because you're so good at building things, Capricorn, doesn't mean you need to stick around and help people completely shift their entire life. Like that's a lot of effort and energy. Try to find people that are a little bit more on your level, please. All right, next category that we have is being a people pleaser. And here, of course, we have Libra. This is another category that is perfect. This is exactly where Libra needs to be. You need to stop people pleasing, Libra. You do. Are you listening to me? You need to stop. You need to stop. It's gonna make you sick. It's gonna make you sick. I know that's really intense and you're like, what you mean it's gonna make me sick? Really go Google, go research. Really go research what resentment does to your body. What you not sharing your feelings, not sharing your truth, what it can do to your body, your physical body. Because listen, spiritual things can very much block, right? Like block your chakras. Any sort of unprocessed emotion can completely block your chakras, and now your energy field is off, and now there is this unwanted energy latching onto you, all because you refuse to voice it and you refuse to tell people how you really feel because you're so scared of rocking the boat. And that can manifest in autoimmune diseases, like truly, you guys. So really, it's about your goddamn health. You need to start telling people how you feel, and you need to stop going along with things just for the sake of, you know, maintaining the peace, right? There are situations where the role of the peacemaker is very much needed, and that is your job. You are the peacemaker of the Zodiac, and the world would be in chaos. I'm talking that episode of SpongeBob where it's showing his brain and there's like fire happening inside his brain. Like, that is a world without Libra energy, right? So I think it's important to understand that, yes, while that is your superpower and we want you to continue to keep the peace in situations that are necessary, but here's what I want you to do. It's about times where it's bothering you. Like, if you are not involved and it is not affecting you, totally try to be the person that is keeping the peace for everyone and is feeding that good energy, right? To the group, to the situation, whatever. But when it comes to you, something happening that is bothering you, you don't use your skills of keeping the peace to suddenly be quiet when it comes to your own feelings. No, that is the wrong time and the wrong usage of energy and the wrong usage of that skill, right? Like, it's almost like you're hiding behind one of your best skills, which is maintaining the peace, but now somehow you're self-sabotaging with this skill that you have, right? Because you could just hide behind your ability to, you know, be calm even in shitty situations. But when that shitty situation is you and your life, you better be able to speak up and not people please. Because what is there to please? They're pissing you off. They're stomping all over you. They're saying whatever the hell they want to you. But you, just because you have this ability to maintain the peace and, you know, please people no matter what they say to you, which can be some crazy ass shit, you are letting it happen all because you're okay with it? No, you're not okay with it. You're telling yourself you're okay with it and that it's not worth it. But internally, it's pissing you off. And the more you do it, the more you tell yourself, well, if I speak up now, they're going to think I'm crazy because I didn't speak up like the last 10 times. Or my whole life, I've just been the easy friend, the one that everyone gets along with, the one that doesn't really have to speak up and will, you know what I mean, bite back their words. I want you to stop being that person. All right. So again, maintain the peace when it's, you know, about other people. But when it comes to you and your feelings, speak up. Speak up. Okay, the next category that we have is fear of failure. And here we have Leo. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. I so see Leo here. We all know how much Leo values being seen and admired, right? When you are someone who wants to be celebrated publicly, that means you will fail publicly too. And you have to be comfortable with that. I mean, this isn't just about Leos in general. If you want to be celebrated publicly, you have to be willing to be failing publicly as well, right? And I mean, yes, you can obviously, whatever, it depends on what it is, right? If you're learning how to play the piano, you can suck for like fucking 5 months in your room. And then suddenly you come out and you start playing the piano and everyone's like, oh my God, when did you learn to play the piano? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in general, Leos want to be admired and seen as strong people, as beautiful people, as talented people, as creative people, right? And they want the world to see that, whether it's actually the whole world and they're putting themselves on a platform, or if it's just their friends and family. They're the type of person that wants to be loudly and proudly shown for who they are and accepted for who they are. So of course, one of their biggest fears is the fear of failure, just because of how confident they are when they're speaking about what it is that they want and who it is that they are, right? When you are so bold like that, the shadow side of it is you being terrified of those things not happening for you, right? And again, it all depends on where all these signs are in their healing journey. A Leo that is very confident and that confidence comes from within. Of course, everyone's going to deal with, fear of failure. But for the most part, they're using their energy, that creative energy that Leos just naturally have, to feed into their confidence and their craft and their art and how they're showing up in the world, right? They're not letting this fear of failure be so debilitating that they don't do the things they want to do, right? If it is a Leo that maybe isn't operating at their best, they're constantly going to be in their heads about how it will look if they fail. What will people think of me if I fail? Just because of how much they are putting themselves out there. So people are going to publicly see if they fail. And I want everyone to know, if you fail, that just means that you tried. And there's absolutely nothing more attractive, nothing more amazing than you trying. That's already more than 70% of people. I don't know the actual percentage, but that sounds right. You know what I mean? So if you failed, that just means that you tried. And the way that you tried did not work this time. So let's try another way. You know what I mean? It's not about failing the first time and realizing, okay, this isn't for me, I failed. No, this particular door to wherever your destination is, that's not the door for you. Another door will be the door for you, but you just have to keep trying and failing. You know what I mean? Okay, so the next category that we have is procrastination. And here we have Scorpio and Aquarius. No. Respectfully, no, I do not think that they should be here. Like I said, Taurus should be here, Sagittarius should be here. We want something, we're gonna do it. You know what I mean? And we're gonna do it when we feel like doing it, as soon as we feel like doing it. Because fixed signs, we're intense like that. But where would they go? What are their categories? So for Scorpio, I feel like Scorpio would go under holding grudges, holding on to a grudge. That's another category. And fear of failure, I could see Scorpio there too. Obviously, holding on to a grudge is the main one for Scorpio, because as we know, holding on to a grudge, what is that saying? When you hold a grudge, it's like, drinking poison and expecting the other person to die or some shit like that, right? I always talk about this, the fine line between obviously being toxic and wanting revenge and holding a grudge, but also using this feeling of, feeling betrayed by people, using that as energy and transmuting that and alchemizing it into motivation to get what you want, right? So I think there's a fine line between holding a grudge and, wanting revenge, but also remembering everything that these people told you that you couldn't do, everything that you are and aren't. You know what I mean? Every bad thing anyone's ever said to you that still replays in your mind, using that as a way, as a tool to somehow gain more confidence and gain more clarity when it comes to your goals, because suddenly everything that they said you couldn't do, you're like, you know what? Fuck you. Actually, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Now you've alchemized this bullshit, the criticism that people have given you, and now you're gonna use that to get what you want. You're gonna use it as a motivator, right? But yeah, in terms of what you need to give up, Scorpio, if you're not in a place where your mindset is, when people, fuck with me, I'm going to use that as a motivation to get what I want out of life and to alchemize that pain into power. If you're not at that place, yes, you need to stop holding on to grudges, because it's actually going to take away so much energy from you that you should be utilizing on other things. Like, you don't understand. If you're a Scorpio, maybe you understand, because I think even some Scorpios don't understand this. When you are holding on to a grudge and you're not transmuting it, you're not using it, to create something, you're not letting it go to create something, you are holding on to that energy and you're pouring so much of your energy into this feeling. You know what I mean? Like, when someone fucks with you enough where, now you're holding on to a grudge, you are feeding that grudge. You are feeding that grudge your energy and your time, right? And this energy and time can go towards your actual goals, the things that you actually want, right? So that is why it goes from the scorpion to the eagle to the phoenix for Scorpio, right? Because the scorpion is very closed-minded. The scorpion just wants to inflict pain when it's fucked with, right? The eagle suddenly has a bird's eye view and is looking around like, okay, interesting. Now I'm seeing different perspectives. maybe it's not just about me, even though it feels very personal when people fuck with you. When you're the eagle, you're looking around and you're getting a bigger picture and you're like, all right, okay, so maybe I took it too personally and it's not about me. Everyone kind of seems to be in pain, and that's making them lash out, right? So you have that kind of perspective. And then obviously the Phoenix, which is the final level, final boss of being a Scorpio, is you understanding that, oh my God, that pain that I had when I was a Scorpion, I can use that pain to actually alchemize it into power. I can use my pain to create something magical, something that will actually stand the test of time, instead of using my pain to create more pain in the world, using my pain to make people feel how I felt when they did that shit to me, right? Because yes, you can do it, but what does that do for you, right? It doesn't give you anything back. Whereas if you use that pain to somehow create something, to, share something with the world, to use it as a way to heal yourself and heal others, as you like to do, Scorpios, you guys are healers, we are healers, that is when you are the Phoenix and you're thriving, And in terms of Aquarius, I think Aquarius goes under criticizing others. I think that would be your category more than procrastination. I think obviously Aquariuses, I could see them procrastinating too. I mean, now that I think about it, I feel like I could see Aquariuses being procrastinators too, because they're such visionaries. I think sometimes if you are a visionary Aquarius and you're not confident in yourself, which you should be, because you are a visionary and you do see things before other people too. But if you're not confident in yourself and in your mind, you will procrastinate because you're so scared of other people not seeing it your way, not seeing your vision. So I think when you reach a point where you're like, it doesn't matter if they don't see my vision, I just need to say it and the right people will agree. That is when you've mastered your energy, Aquarius, But I think if you overthink a lot, which I know Aquariuses do, and you are constantly thinking about whether your ideas will be understood because maybe they're too ahead of their time, that is when you can be procrastinators, because you're almost second guessing yourself and the timing of things. And you're telling yourself, well, maybe if I wait longer, more people will understand, because what I'm thinking, the ideas I have are a little bit too abstract. But those abstract ideas, Aquarius, is what creates mega millionaires. The ideas that go on Shark Tank and get $3 million. You know what I mean? So stop procrastinating and get your weird ass idea out there. You never know who will want to invest in it. Now, in terms of the category I picked for you guys, which is criticizing others, I think Aquariuses do have an issue with that. And it's because most people are not living life like you. And I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that, because Aquarius is so untraditional. For the most part, they're looking at society and they're like, you guys are all doing shit the same way and I have no interest in doing that. And if you don't have things that are making you happy, Aquarius, I feel like you guys can get very obsessed with other people's lives and why they're living it that way. You know what I mean? Even though Aquarius is very aloof and they don't care, they're still a fixed air sign. So they're constantly trying to understand why people are the way they are. So that can make you very critical of others and the way that they're living. And why, if they were living like you, untraditionally like you, it'll be so much better, right? So I think that's where that judgment comes from and that criticism comes from, is because Aquarius doesn't understand why people can't change fast enough. And it's honestly the most interesting aspect of Aquarius, is because they're a fixed air sign, so they get obsessed with doing things a certain way and certain ideas, but also they're the visionary and they're ruled by Uranus, which makes them want to do things differently and, be outside of the box when it comes to the way that they live life. So I think it's just interesting because they have both of these energies that can be very different in one sign. So I'd be interested to know, how do you Aquariuses deal with that? How do you deal with the fact that you guys truly make your own rules and you don't want to do things the same way as anyone ever, but also you guys can get hyper obsessed with how you do things and you never want to change, even though you expect other people to change because you're living life so differently and it's so much better differently. Okay, the next category that we have is holding on to a grudge. Here we have Gemini and Pisces. Let's do a round of a fucking giggle, okay? A fucking laugh. Gemini holding a grudge? That's like asking if Dory from Finding Nemo holds grudges. The answer is no, because that bitch doesn't remember what happened 3 seconds ago. You know what I mean? And that is Gemini. That is Gemini. They don't remember and they don't care to remember. And also the thing is, because they're Gemini and because they're easily stimulated by new things happening around them, of course they don't give a fuck and they're not holding a grudge. Like, that's the funniest shit I've ever heard. They don't give a fuck. There's so much to do in this world. There's so many other people to meet. Why would they hold a grudge? Why would they even stay somewhere long enough to hold a grudge? Because that's what holding a grudge is, right? Staying in one moment, thinking about one person, thinking about one situation for so long that it becomes a grudge. Gemini is out of there. They don't want to even think about one thing for that long. Seriously. Now, the thing that Gemini does need to give up, and this one was a little bit harder for me to put into a category, but I think I'm going to go with negative self-talk. Let me know what category you guys will put Gemini in, because yeah, I feel like I'm going with negative self-talk, because as much as Gemini is, you know, happy and positive, and they really are, but Gemini, at the end of the day, that devil, you know, they have a devil, they have a demon and an angel sitting on each shoulder. They're that duality, right? They see both sides of the situation always. But I feel like people don't understand that that negative twin, the twin that second guesses themselves, that's the one that's usually in their head, right? Because for most Geminis, laughing, having a good time, socializing, it can be a good distraction from the negative self-talk that is happening inside their mind. Gemini can be very hypercritical of themselves and their ideas, right? Just because of how fast their mind changes. And I say this as a Gemini moon. When your mind is constantly changing, of course it's hard not to second guess yourself. Truly, truly. And again, because they are ruled by Mercury and we're being stimulated by so many different things at once. God, whenever I say that, it sounds so dirty. When we are being stimulated by so many different things at the same time, it's hard not to be in your head about what's really important and about whether you're making the right decisions, because you're constantly going back and forth. Whereas if you're someone like Taurus, who is very much, you know, standing firmly in their truth and they don't waver often, it's probably a little bit easier, you know, in your mind, because you genuinely think you made the right decision no matter what you did, right, Taurus? Like, you have literally no anxiety over if you made the right decision or not, because Taurus is rarely ever wrong in their head, right? And for them, for Taurus, that's probably really lovely, because they don't have the twins that Gemini has, where they're going back and forth trying to figure out if this is the right way or if that's the right way, right? So I think Gemini really needs to work on their negative self-talk, but you're not going to catch Geminis admitting that they have negative self-talk, because they could never. The clown only laughs. And also Pisces being here is hilarious too, because Pisces also doesn't hold grudges. And again, any sign ever can hold grudges, but Pisces, the archetype, typically does not want to hold grudges. They're mutable water, they're flowing, they want to release these things, right? But I would say the category that I could see Pisces being in is negative self-talk, much like Gemini. I could also see Pisces being in the people pleaser category, alongside delusional Libra. The two delusional signs, Pisces and Libra, they can be very much people pleasers. So when it comes to Pisces and people pleasing, Pisces just wants everyone to be happy, truly. And because Pisces is the 12th sign and they understand every energy effortlessly, they give people a lot of grace. Pisces gives people a lot of grace because they are very sensitive. So they assume that everyone else is sensitive. And the thing is, externally, a lot of people aren't sensitive. Actually, some people just aren't sensitive internally either. But most people are. Even the ones that don't show that they're sensitive on the outside, they do have an inner child that they have not tended to, right? Like, if you're not openly expressing joy, I'm gonna assume that you and your inner child are not like this. You look at your inner child with a little bit of judgment for being too sensitive, and your inner child is probably looking at you as someone that takes themselves too seriously and is just playing at being an adult, but really your inner child is judging you because it's like, hey, we have some work to do and we haven't talked about it in, like, I want to say 15 years. And you're like, what work? Why are you so sensitive, right? Pisces is the sign that has the most, I would say, forgiveness for everything in life, right? Like, they are just so understanding. So when you are so understanding like that, you tend to people please, Pisces, because you want to make everyone happy, because you don't want to be the reason someone's having a bad day, right? because you understand how heavy this world can be. So it's almost like Pisces energy, for the most part, is always connecting with your inner child. So even if someone is being mean to Pisces, Pisceans let them get away with it just because of how well they understand people's pain and their truths, even the ones that they're not sharing. But yeah, I would say also Pisces would be in that negative self-talk category because of how sensitive they are, right? I think if Pisces is operating at their lowest vibration and they're judgy, and they're never judgy to other people, but Pisces can sometimes get mad at themselves for being too sensitive, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, that is where their negative self-talk comes from, is when Pisces hasn't gotten to a place where they're okay with how sensitive they are, right? To other people, they're always sensitive to them, but sometimes Pisces, if they're not okay with their emotions, with how much emotion they have and how much emotion they hold, when they're in their head, when Pisces is in their head, they are getting very much frustrated with themselves and how personally they take everything, how they're too sensitive, and now they're just living in this, you know, in their head. And it can be very dangerous. We always talk about how much Pisces loves their daydreaming, and they do, and that's where they love to be. They're ruled by the 12th house of dreams and the subconscious. But also, we don't talk about enough how that place that they can be when Pisces is daydreaming and they're not in a good place, that can literally lead to a long nightmare, right? It's still a dream, but it's a nightmare. And they're just reliving all the times that they were too sensitive, all the times that they let people get away with shit. You know, even though they can be people pleasers, they still remember the times that they've let people walk all over them. And it just makes their overactive imagination, you know, relive this nightmare over and over again. And that's just not a good place for you to be, Pisces. And I want you to get out of it. Okay, the last category that we have is expecting perfection. I know we had put Virgo here, and here they have put Cancer. So the list says Cancer. I don't know if Cancer is for this category. I actually think the water signs in general, we know perfection doesn't exist. You know, Scorpio loves the darker aspects of people. That's how we actually connect with you and have respect for you, is when you're open about your imperfections. Pisces doesn't judge you. Pisces actually is very gentle and soft because they understand that people are really hard on themselves when it comes to their imperfections, right? Like, Pisces truly understands how harsh this world can be and how harsh this reality can be. So they don't expect perfection when it comes to people. And Cancer being on this list doesn't make sense either. Like I said, none of the water signs should be here because Cancer actually understands the emotions that come with this earthly experience, right? Being ruled by the moon, Cancer goes through, you know, all the emotions, the waves of every emotion all the time, constantly, because being ruled by the moon changes signs every 2.5 days. So Cancer placements are moving, you know, with that energy. So I think actually they're very understanding of people when they are going through shit and when they are not being perfect, right? They're very much okay with that if they're in a healthy place. But what I do think Cancer actually needs to give up is holding a grudge. Ooh, Cancer, don't be lying. Don't be lying. It's so funny because Scorpios get the award for holding grudges. Meanwhile, Cancers are like in the backstage, like, should have been me, but it's fine. You can take this one, Scorpio. Like, it's almost like they know. You guys know, you Cancers know that you should be up there with Scorpio holding that award for, you know, holding on to grudges, being the best at holding on to grudges. But Cancer would never admit that out loud. Never, 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 never. But you know you do, Cancer. Cancer doesn't forget shit. When you have hurt Cancer's feelings and when you have done something to Cancer where they have shown you their crazy side, ooh, and their psycho side is insane. It is insane. Honestly, do not. If there's a Cancer and a Scorpio and they're going against you, just don't. Just leave, move, go to another country. You do not want a Cancer and Scorpio duo to not fuck with you at the same time. Because if this duo doesn't like you, if this duo is holding a grudge against you, yeah, they are feeding each other. Like, when Cancer and Scorpio come together against something or against someone, oh my God, the energy is just, it's crazy. It is actually the ocean during a storm. You know those movies and shows where it's like, yeah, they're gonna die. They're dying. It looks like death. That is Cancer and Scorpio when they're coming together to hold a grudge against someone, you know? So when it comes to Cancer holding a grudge, it may not be talked about enough, you know? When it comes to astrology, it's not talked about enough how much Cancer enjoys holding a grudge, because to them, this feeling of, you did me wrong and you made me show my crazy self, even though usually I like to be a sweetheart, because you've seen that part of me, because you forcefully brought out that part of me, now I have a grudge against you. And you've already seen the crazy me, so I'm not even gonna hide it with you anymore. That's what Cancer says. All right, you guys, that is the end of this video. Like I said, I played Tetris a lot. I was changing a lot of these signs, but again, let me know, did you agree with this list? Did you agree with my list? If you have your own list, comment it down below. I love hearing how you guys perceive this, because we all have different perceptions of things, but that is how I viewed it. Let me know if you agreed. I love hearing what you guys have to say. Like I said, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. If you're an oldie but a goodie, don't forget to like and tell your friend about this video. Tell them what they need to give up, you know? This is a really nice way to let people know, hey, this is something you're struggling with, you know, without actually having to say it. You could send the video and be like, ha, it's so funny. And then they're gonna watch it and be like, damn, this was a whole read. But it was a read from a Libra Mercury, you know, the most digestible read, right? Anyway, I love you guys. I will see you for Yap Therapy. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week, because you deserve it. Bye, you guys.